College football Saturdays are back.
SEC Nation is in Auburn, baby.
The craziest. He's just invincible. Welcome to Invincible, the show where we tell the tales of our greatest athletic talents, striving to be invincible on and off the field. My name is Vince Wolfram, and I am so stoked that you're here. My guest this week is a legend on the plains of Auburn University. In his 15-year NFL career, this quarterback's worst nightmare was a two-time Pro Bowler, recorded over 1,000 career tackles, and was only one of 7 linebackers to achieve more than 200 career starts in the NFL. He is a book author, he's your favorite analyst's favorite analyst on the SEC Network, and he's the co-host of the Behind the Mask podcast, where the only rule is that there are no rules. Welcome to Invincible, Mr. TAKEO Spikes.
Yeah, I like the intro, dog. I like it. Good to be on the Invincible. What's up, Mitch?
What's going on, my man? So you've had so much success in media, on the football field, at Auburn, where we are, but I'm going to take it all the way back. I'm going to take it all the way back to Augusta, Georgia, where this whole thing started. Why did you choose football? What was it that got you started in the game?
Well, the game, for me, it started up just growing up in my neighborhood. And typically, we would go play basketball. And because I was short, I didn't have a growth spurt. It was like, I wasn't the first one that was picked. So it was like I always had to go prove my worth. But it was this one day we had uneven numbers. But it was a lot of kids. So we were like, all right, let's play football in the street. And I remember I used to love watching football. And it was just some of the things that came naturally to me was being able to catch. I was a pretty good athlete, but this day we had this guy playing quarterback and he threw. So the street was like the field, but the sidewalk, or it wasn't no sidewalk, but it was just straight dirt grass that was out of bounds. So he threw this pass and it was like way like out of bounds. So what I did was I went over and I reached my hands out and I like the toe drag swag. So I was able to get 2 feet in the street because he threw the ball way out. And from that moment, one of the kids said, damn, Spice can play, man. Did you see that catch? And I was like, oh, you didn't think I couldn't play? What you talking about? So from that point forward, it was like that I love this game. And so I still play basketball a little bit, but for me, I felt like why not play the game of football? You're pretty good at it. You can catch, you can run, and it's one of the only sports to where you can hit somebody and don't even get in trouble for it. Sign me up. That's what I said I'll do.
There you go. And that's exactly what you did, because obviously you took off as a high school recruit, all eyes in Georgia on you, and nationally, just being a national ranked recruit. And with all the competitive recruiting process that you experienced, what was it about Auburn that drew you to end up coming to the Plains for college?
It was the timing. 93, Auburn went 11-0. And I was like, I don't know who this team is. And I've heard Bo Jackson went there. But they balling. So I said, let me just see what they doing the next year. So the next year, which was my upcoming senior year, they went 9-1-1. So they beat Florida both of the years, Georgia. So they had some big wins under their belt. And I actually came to the Iron Bowl and I saw them play and I was like, wow. I was like, man, these guys are balling. But when I thought about guys on the defensive side, I was like, they play collectively, they play great defense. But it really wasn't that one guy who really stood out for me that I thought was dominant. So for me, I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go to Auburn and be that guy. And that was like, honestly, that was like how it all started. Like that's where it began.
Absolutely. And then your sophomore and junior year is when you really had that shine, and you were the guy for that Auburn defense, because it was one that teams were terrified to face in that span of 2 years. What was it about your leadership or the defense in general that made it as scary as it was for opposing offenses?
I think at Auburn, I remember Rodney Garner Wayne Hall, Terry Bowden. They did a great job of recruiting like the same type of guys, like guys who were like high blue chippers back then, like high 5 stars compared to now. But it was like we loved the game. Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't about what you can get out of the game. It was about, I want to be known as one of the best ever to play the game. So I think with the type of guys that were recruited coming in when I came in 95, that really propelled us to that next level. And then that next year, my sophomore, junior year, it was all about, I still remember first day me walking on campus, I put down on my goal sheet, I wanted to win the buckets, and I wanted to be a first round pick and go within the top 15 picks. I ended up I didn't win the buckets. I was a semifinalist for it, which was, I felt like that was one of the first times I got the shaft. It was political, because if you ain't really winning, when we won at Auburn now, but it was some BS. I'm trying to keep it clean for your show.
Thank you.
But semifinalists for the buckets, and then I think the other part, as far as me being drafted, I said first round 15 picks, top 15 picks, I went 13. So the proof was in the pudding, and to this day now, I still do some of the same things that I used to do as a young kid or a young man. I still do that now, sitting at 46 years old.
In your Auburn career, you had a lot of legendary games. The Louisiana Tech 65-yard, the interception return for a touchdown, the Georgia 4 overtime game. But the one that sticks out most in my head was the SEC championship in 97, playing against the Tennessee Volunteers team that has Peyton Manning, legends on that team, and you walk away with the MVP of that game. How did that affect your career and your mindset knowing you were going into the pros?
Man, I'll go back to that game. Bob, I had no idea, and I was a junior, Vince. I had no idea I was going to the pros. Even after that game, before that game, I didn't have any idea. I just wanted to play well and be dominant. And that game went so well for me, even though we lost. At the end of the game, I remember them telling me to hold up, don't walk in the locker room yet. And I was like, why? And they were like, you won MVP. And I was like, is that possible? You can win MVP and lose? And then they were like, yeah, like you're only, I want to say they told me you're the second person ever that has done that. And I was like, damn, okay, I guess I'll stay. And so immediately after that happened, I was thinking, I think my work is done here. Like I knew Damian Craig, our quarterback, was leaving. So I was like, man, I need to go see what this draft talking about.
Got the swag to you then.
Yeah, for real though. And like you say, that Tennessee team, Peyton Manning, you look at defensively, they had Al Wilson, Leonard Little, Deion Grant. All of these guys went on to the league to go first round. Travis Henry, Jamal Lewis, big time running back, first round pick, top 5. So Peerless Price. So, for me, it was easy. After that, it was like, yeah, I think I've dominated this level, so it's time to take my talents to the NFL.
And from that moment on, NFL teams were looking at you. You said you wanted to be a top 5 pick, and that you were. Like you said, you were drafted 13th overall to the Cincinnati Bengals. I know some NBA guys, and they tell me stories about draft night, but I've never heard it from an NFL perspective. Tell me about what your draft night experience was.
Well, back then, they didn't invite everybody to the draft. Mm-hmm. They only did the anticipation of the top 5 picks. So for me, I decided to have my draft party in California where I trained, and it was in San Francisco, there in Oakland. So it was this old sports bar, where it's old now because it's not around, but it was, what was it called? It was called Planet Hollywood. That's what it was called. And that was like the creme de la creme of sports bars, right? Yeah. So I had it there, and I remember watching the draft, and At the 10th pick, Jacksonville picked Fred Taylor. The Atlanta Falcons had the 12th pick. So they called at number 10 and they were like, hey, if you still there, we're probably going to get you. Would you want to be a Falcon? I'm like, hell yeah. Still remember this. So the commissioner comes up with the 12th pick of the 1998 NFL draft. The Atlanta Falcons select linebacker. I stand up like, I'm coming home. I'm coming home. From out of Georgia Tech, Keith Bricken. I was like, who?
That was not TAKEO
No.
Spikes.
Oh, man, I sat down. I was so mad. I was like, you should not even call me then. You getting my hopes up. I'm thinking I'm finna be at the crib. And they went to the Super Bowl that year too. Oh. But, you know, God got his own plans. I remember as soon as that happened, I looked at my agent and I was like, man, who got the next pick? Because I was banking on coming home now. And then as soon as I said that, the Cincinnati Bengals called. And it was Dick LeBeau, defensive coordinator. And he was like, hey, young fella, would you want to be a Bengal? And I was like, hell yeah, get me off the board right now.
Immediately.
So boom, it happened, 13th pick. I went over and pretty much, man, the rest was history after that.
And then when you got there, you wasted, zero time. You started every preseason game, every regular season game. And in your time in Cincinnati, you only missed one game. So what was your mindset going in that you decided once again that you were going to be the guy as soon as you walked in the door?
The mindset for me that first year was you saw so many. So I did research, and I remember looking at all of the draftees or the number one draft picks that came on. They had several busts, and a couple of them were quarterbacks from Cincinnati. For me, I was like, man, I'm not being a bust, like, period. Like, I just I can't comprehend that. So I just worked my ass off to make sure that mentally, I knew I could play the game physically, but you can't play physically if you don't know what the hell is going on. Mm-hmm. So for me, I just wanted to make sure I understood how to read defenses, how to read offenses, how to know what you're supposed to be doing. And in the event, if they come out in something else and they give you motion to change up coverages, you have to know what coverage you're going to in order to be able to play fast. So that was my mentality. And I just said, I'm not going to take any days off. I am going to stay on it the entire time. And whatever happens, happens. And that was my thought process. And that's exactly what I did.
In your sophomore season in the NFL, you were named team captain. I think that speaks enough for itself, how much of a leader you were as soon as you walked in the door. But that Bengals team, when you were there, they weren't the winningest program in the world, in the league at that time. What was it? Would you say that was the biggest adversity you faced in Cincinnati? Was you being a winner and you wanting to win so bad, but the results not quite being there?
Yeah, it was the biggest adversity that I had faced to that point. The reason why, you even said it, you look at career in high school, won a lot of games, state championship, you go to college, you win in the SEC West crown, playing in the SEC championship, winning MVP. So, everything that I have done to that point, I was winning. Mm-hmm. And to come into a season, 16 games, and you only winning 4. One season we won 2. Another season we won like 6. You know what I mean? So like that was heavy. Like mentally that was heavy. And I remember at times it was like the first 2 years, maybe the second year, I remember coming in just crying because it was just like how can we, like, I just felt like I had all control. But what I learned is like, you, as much as you think you do, you don't, because everybody has to come into that building with the same type of attitude. They got to come into the building with the same type of mentality that practice means everything to them. So that treat practice like a game, because you can't turn it on and off like a light switch. So that was my mentality coming into it.
that animosity you felt, like you said, crying in the locker room just because you wanted to win so bad. That propelled you to your next franchise, the Buffalo Bills, in 2003. And
Yeah.
your impact there was made instantly, as through one season, you got your first ever Pro Bowl selection. How did it feel to finally get that recognition, get that tier, the top tier of the elites in the NFL?
I felt vindicated. I felt validated, verified, everything that you can use, because when I was playing in Cincinnati, I remember playing against, some of the greats, and it got to a point 5 years there, like by the third year, you knew, like I was hopeful that we would win, but you just didn't know. But I always wanted to leave a mark in the game to where my teammates or the guys that I played against, they could say whatever they wanted to say at the end of the year when we're in the off-season training. But one thing that you would not say is that I suck. You couldn't say that you were bad. The one compliment I got every year was, Spikes, you guys were trash, but we had the game plan for you, and that's all I needed, because that gave me more belief, and it validated or verified my thoughts and my preparation of what I was doing. Like, I don't care what else happens. He can throw a deep bomb. That ain't my guy. But if you come in my neighborhood, I'm going to sit you down. And so that was the thought process. That was the mentality that I took, and that what I carried.
The fans knew how passionate of a player TAKEO Spikes was. Was that fire that you talked about, just having that sort of blue collar mentality, taking that to the football field with, you were just full blown, I'm going to let you have every bit of TAKEO Spikes?
Oh yeah, man. Because I knew at that time when I came in, the linebackers that ran the game were, you had your guys in Pittsburgh, but it really was Ray Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Zach Thomas. Randall Godfrey was another good linebacker that came into the game. So for me, I just wanted to be mentioned in the same breath as those guys. But I knew I couldn't attach that thought to team success.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, the mentality part of it for me was, man, you do what you got to do now so you don't have to do what you don't want to do later. And I think a whole lot of sacrifice that I made just from preparation, like none of that stuff, bro, I just never indulged in, because I wouldn't even drink. I had a high school coach tell me, this is like how strict I was. I had a high school coach tell me, if you drink pop, if you drink sodas, it's going to cut your wind. So I'm like, what? Like, I'm already tired. You think I want to be even more tired?
Cut that.
So like to that point now, I don't even drink sodas. Every now and then I'll drink one. Like, it was also to a point to where just to sacrifice what I made.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why was just I didn't want any distractions.
Yeah.
Like, because for me, I knew, this is with anybody, not just athletics, but it's more, I think it's more prevalent in athletics. Whenever you set out to do something special, including you got a window of opportunity. And that every year is going to keep closing. And so for me, I was like, I already see the analytics. Most guys only make it 3 years average playing in the NFL. So for me, I was like, I need to do everything I possibly can. So I cut out distractions. Bro, I took it like it was a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I ain't get it twisted. Like,
yeah,
I came from a good family, but we ain't had no money. So you think I wasn't gonna mess that up?
Yeah.
Not my one time opportunity. Nah, I wasn't doing that. Keo ain't doing that. So so when you see me now, like, I'm still strict in that nature, but it's just certain things that I'm not going to compromise when it comes to being excellent. Mm-hmm. When it comes to chasing greatness, like, that's who I am. That's my ethos, and I won't compromise that.
Yeah, and that level of discipline, that level of strength is really what propelled you even after the Bills. You got traded to the Eagles, 49ers, Chargers, all three of those teams, and you were a leader on
Right.
them. The Chargers, you were a captain. 49ers, you were a captain. Came in immediately and just made an impact. Um, Talk about that, because obviously, as it's getting sort of later in your career, being bounced around, that could cause some guys to maybe not have that level of discipline, that level of strength that you had. But if anything, you upped yours and you
Yeah.
stayed at that same level of intensity. And the teams realized that enough to make you listed as one of the leaders of the team, not just through example. Talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't, let me tell you one thing about being a locker room lawyer, guys don't buy that. You can have the slickest mouthpiece of all time. But if that mouthpiece ain't matching what you put out on the field as far as output, as far as you putting down, like making big plays, like nobody is listening. So one of the biggest honors and achievement for me was to go to the Chargers my first year and to be nominated as captain.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't play with any of those guys, but they saw how I carried myself. All of the everything that I did in private, what most people didn't know, when I finally came to them, it was displayed in public amongst them. And they was like, you know what? This is the guy who we want to be nominated as our leader, as our captain. And so, I kept that same attitude even when I was in the one thing that I'm really proud of. And I was talking to Bruce Smith, All Pro, Hall of Fame. Bruce Smith played with the Buffalo Bills yesterday. I told him, I was like, back when I received my Achilles injury, it was a wrap. Nobody came back from it. It
Mm-hmm.
was only one person who came back to play for an extensive period of time, and that was Dan Marino.
Mm-hmm.
But he was a quarterback, so I was like, that
Different
didn't
story.
count. So for
Yeah.
me, it was like, I'm gonna come back. And it was the hardest thing that I ever had to do. Learn how to walk again. Learning how to being able to trust certain movements that I just took for granted just because it's part of my it's just part of my daily living, how
Mm-hmm.
I react. So um to come back from that really just it really did something for me mentally. You talk about adversity. Whenever you're trying to accomplish something great, you're never going to get there if you don't experience adversity. And that was one of the ones or one thing that I looked head on and I accepted it for what it was. But I still remember writing a quote down on paper because I remember seeing plenty of print in the papers on the internet about he's never going to be the same or he won't play no longer than 1 to 2 years. I came back and played 7 years after that and had some of my best seasons
Yeah.
after that, especially with the 49ers. So,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going that quote I was talking about. Never let someone else's opinion of you become your reality. And to this day, even I'll share it with you in broadcast journalism. Like, it's okay for somebody else to have an opinion, but it ain't my reality. So
Right.
just deal with it.
Mm-hmm. And you had that sort of deal with it mindset throughout your career, but especially in those seasons with the 49ers. But in addition to that, obviously being a captain for 13 of your 15 NFL teams and coming back from an injury like you did, you still managed to have a lot
Yeah.
of fun playing the game. And that was seen on the 49ers because you went, it's a little lighter note here, but you had a little fame there because you made the little TAKEO sack dance. Where did that dance come from?
I just felt like it was a young team that they love to have fun, but it was like, all right, I got to come in and be the guy, the elder statesman, but I got to show them like I'm gonna have fun too now. And I even tell my daughter this, like, we work hard, we work hard. When it's
Mhm.
time to work, we gonna work harder than anybody. But when it's time to play, we gonna play harder. As play hard or play harder than anybody who's out here playing. And I think when you have a good mix of things like that, it makes it more enjoyable. So for me, doing that, bringing that fun inside of the locker room, because it was challenging everybody every week. Big play dance, what you gonna give them? And so at the end, by week 10, everybody was practicing what they were gonna do by Friday of that week before we played on Sunday. So that was cool.
Have an effect on the way they dance, the way they play, the way they lead. I mean, you did it all. In the 15-year career that was your NFL career, what is like one moment or one game that really stands out in your head as sort of a defining moment for you in the league?
I have several moments. I remember in Cincinnati, we played against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore Sunday Night Football. And I want to say it was my rookie year.
Wow.
And Eric Zaya was the quarterback. And I remember a blitz was called, and I came through the line screaming, running. And I didn't even see the running back until the last second. He tried to cut me, but having that relentless attitude, I just jumped over him. And the quarterback was right behind him, and I got the sack. Like, that was a defining moment to where people were like, oh, he's a flash player.
Mm-hmm.
He make plays, flash plays. I remember my last game in Cincinnati to where I knew I wasn't coming back, and we played Buffalo. And when I walked out the stadium, the entire stadium yelling my name, TKO. And I'm like, hold up. They still know I'm playing with Cincinnati. But
I'm not in Buffalo
they
just
were
yet.
recruiting me. Yeah, they were recruiting me because they knew I was going to be a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
So I played well that game, had 2 sacks. And then also, like, you play 15 years, you got a few now. You know what I mean? I remember being in Buffalo and playing against the Patriots. And I think they won the Super Bowl the year before, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe that wasn't their first year, but I remember I got NFL Defensive Player of the Week, 2 interceptions, like 15 tackles. I had a knockout, and so a lot goes on, man. Even going to Philly, being traded, happy to be in Philly playing with Andy Reid, San Francisco, being coached by Mike Singletary, one of my all-time favorites, So I had plenty of highlights, man. Plenty of highlights.
Plenty of highlights in your career, and now plenty of highlights in your next career. As you sort of ventured into the broadcast space, the journalism space, you got your master's and in 2016, and since then you've written a book, you started a podcast, you're now an SEC network analyst. I mean, is there anything you don't do? Honestly. I mean, what inspired the book?
Whenever I went to, this goes back to high school, and I get this work ethic, from my mom and my pops, but whenever I wake up, I've always believed I was waking up chasing greatness. Mm-hmm. And whenever I would wake up, I would hear this in my head, like internal, like, and for me, that was the sound of the steps of somebody catching me, because I haven't started to get up and work out, or I have not started to watch extra film. So for me, feeling that way, always feeling like I got to get up and do something, I was chasing greatness. The parallels that come with that is the same as the book. I wanted to know what made these great Hall of Famers, like, what made them tick, what made them so great, what was their defining moment. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what I did. So I went around a year and a half, and not only did I spent the day with them, but I just got them sharing their story of, like, what was their defining moment of becoming not just the player, but the man who you are. What are you made of? What ethos do you live by? And that's how Behind the Mask book came to life. And it was a tough deal for me to be able to do, but I got it done. Mm-hmm. And I learned so much, even with you mentioning the business school aspect. I was able to get my MBA, but use some of the same things from a business side and make them applicable to what I was doing with the book, the creative side. So
Mhm.
not only did I take every picture in the book, with the exception but one, but I wrote it as well. So it was one of my passion projects, and I was definitely, you're gonna see a volume 2 coming out. The pandemic hit, so we was just like, oh, hold up, ain't nobody trying to
Yeah.
sit and talk to nobody when the
Right.
pandemic was out. That's how the podcast got started.
Mhm.
And so it was like, essentially, I'm doing the same thing on the podcast, sharing untold stories of athletes, celebrities, whether or not if it's dealing with personal, business, nonprofit, and really like the caveat is the untold stories of like what everybody don't know. Essentially, everybody has a mask. My mask was a helmet, but when you look around, everybody has different fields. So when you pull down your mask, who are you really? What makes you tick?
Yeah.
So that's what I set out to do, or what I'm doing with the Behind the Mask podcast, which you can find on every streaming platform, YouTube. Vince, I'm gonna need for you to put all of that goodness in the description
You better
when you
believe it.
post this video. That's what I'm talking about.
And just like you do with your show, try to get to know somebody outside of the sport, outside of the athlete, the profession. Now that we're done with the football and the media questions, I'm going to do the same thing with you. So we're going to go into some speed round questions here. Some fun, some just sort of jog some memories for some Auburn fans. So we're going to get into that now. So speed round questions. First one, what app drains your phone screen time the most?
Easy. Email.
Email. I was not expect. I would have thought Instagram, Twitter, something.
No, Instagram does, but I'm on email more than Instagram.
He's a
And
businessman.
that's the entrepreneurial side now. So when you get ready to jump on that side, you got to make sure you ain't just doing what you're supposed to be doing. You got to manage what everybody else is doing and the expectation. So Instagram is close, but email just, I sometimes I don't even want to look at it.
He's a businessman, but he is the businessman. What is your
Yep.
go-to emoji?
Hey,
It's a
hey,
classic. Can't go
you
wrong with
didn't.
that one.
Hey, you said you were supposed to call me back. It didn't happen, though.
Not this time. Next, if you could swap lives with anyone for a week, who would it be and why? Makes you think, doesn't it?
I would say probably The Rock, Dwayne Johnson,
The Rock.
just because there's so many similarities
Mm-hmm.
of playing college football. He didn't make it to the league, but he still aspired, or he still woke up and chased greatness. And so we all know what he's done from wrestling and how he was able to use all of that to propel himself to being the businessman.
So your career was filled with huge hits. Like you said, you jumped over a guy and hit the quarterback. A lot of skull-crushing hits came from you. Do you have one that sticks in your mind like, oh man, that was a hit. That guy's going to feel this for the next week.
I had one against this receiver. He was playing in Jacksonville and he came across the middle. I knew the play was coming. Well, I actually hit Troy Brown on this from the Patriots earlier the year before. Jacksonville ran it the next year, and I recognized it before it even came. And I hit him so hard, he actually held on to the ball, but his helmet just shot off. And like he was knocked out though. And I never forget that because it just went quiet. And when my senses came back to me, I remember hearing the stadium was like TKO, TK, the whole stadium. And so definitely one of my hardest hits.
What was the best prank that you or your team pulled on another teammate?
This probably happened in high school. So bad, so wrong to me. So we used to have the old school cream of Jesus heat, and we told this one guy, we were like, "Hey, why you keep wearing the same jeans all the time, bro?" And he was like, "I got different pair of jeans. This is not the same pair of jeans." And every day we would call him out, and he would deny it. He was like, "I got two pair of jeans. I have two pair every day, and I got another pair in the locker." So what we did, we got his jeans and got some heat and rubbed the insides part of them with the cream of Jesus. And so when he went back in, he came out. He wanted to fight everybody, but he didn't know who did it. And so he was like, "Why y'all don't do this to me?" I was like, "You say you got two pair of jeans, so why don't you put the other ones on?"
Just get the other pair. That's a good one.
Yeah, he did. That was nasty though. I should not have did that, but
Didn't have another pair of pants. That's a good one. I like that. What is an unskippable song in your playlist right now?
unskippable definitely has to be Mainstream by Outkast.
Can't go wrong with a little Outcast.
You can't, man. You just can't, bro. Like
Nope.
I can put T.I. Essentials on and just let it ride.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Cannot.
that's can't no skip, no touch, no fingerprints. That's
Are
what
you
E40 says. No fingerprints.
no
No
finger?
fingerprints.
Are you a Spotify or Apple Music guy?
Apple Music.
Oh, I'm a Spotify guy. I hate to let you down.
What's the difference? Everybody be like, "Oh, I'm on Spotify." I want to know. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it's got some fun features. The end of the year things are always fun. A lot of suggested stuff.
So they have more curated playlists, you think, than
Yeah,
Apple?
that's what I like about it because like sometimes I won't even have to make one; they'll just sort of put it together for me. But obviously, I have my playlist that's got 1,000 songs on it, and I hit shuffle, and I'm good with whatever comes on. So I don't really care that much. It's not that deep for me. It's just the one I've got. But
Got it.
that's probably what I would say. Let's see. Next question: if you could have an unlimited storage of one thing, what would it be?
Unlimited storage. I would have unlimited storage of iCloud memory. And it's only going to get worse because they keep making the cameras better. And then the different features like boomerang, all that stuff adds up, man. Like for real. So man, somebody asked me to take a picture the other day. We get ready to take the picture, they hit it. Do you want to optimize your storage? I'm like, come on, man. Have your phone cleaned up, bro. So that's why storage is so important.
Yeah. Got to get your gallery right. All right. I got one last question for you, TAKEO. Fill in the blank.
Right.
Jordan Stadium on game day is what?
Sensational.
I love it.
From every aspect, from the fan engagement, from the hospitality when you walk in the doors, from the game day vibe, like you can not only can you feel it in the air, but you can smell it. You know, like it's excellence, man.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's excellence in every form. And honestly, I thought it was like that when I was playing, but it's even better now. Mm-hmm. And the thing what I love about Auburn is it's the people. And it's typically when you get people who come from that school or who come from our school, like, I mean, you got to do your research on everybody, but at least you knowing what type of young man or young lady that you think you're getting. Mm-hmm. Like you damn near 70, 80% right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that, if people say, "Oh, I don't want to go to Auburn because of this." Well, it just doesn't mean that we're bad. It just means that you're not an Auburn woman or a man. Yep. And that's okay. But membership has its privileges.
Absolutely. Well, that is the perfect way to wrap up this episode of Invincible. Make sure everybody to go check out the Behind the Mask podcast, link in description. TAKEO, once again, thank you so much for coming on. But it was a pleasure, my man.
All right, Vince. All good, man. Good luck to you. And I'm going to be watching you too now. I already watch you, but yeah.
I appreciate it.
Stay up, man.